people are going crazy. I received a lot of messages from my clients as well as subscribers and all people all over the social media. So what's happening there in Canada? In fact, I got a lot of messages from you all asking like, how's things? Are you all safe? All good? Thank you so much for your concern. Thank you so much for shooting out all messages to me. And just to let you know, things are pretty cool here and we're all pretty safe as a family, so all good that way, right? So this video I would like to talk about what actually happened last week and where the issue stands at this point in time. So just wanted to bring this to your notice so that you get some clarity on like what's actually happening between India and Canada, and what's the ground reality, and how this thing is about to go forward and things of that sort, right? So just to give you that information, I'm making this video. I'll try to keep it as short as possible, and then probably in the end, if you have any questions, I might even take a few questions of yours as well, right? So this all started, I think, last Monday, the previous Monday. So when Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, so he went on to the House of Parliament, and there he told, or that he announced that there is a link to Indian government. He linked Indian government to the killing of a person, a Sikh leader here in Canada. His name is I forgot his name. Singh Nijar, right? So yeah. So basically, this person who's a Canadian citizen, he's a pro-activist, like he's a pro-Khalistani activist here in Canada, and he's been told that he's been labeled a terrorist by the Indian government in the year 2020. So he has been conducting various activities here in Canada, it seems, and India has already issued the government of Canada that they wanted government of Canada to surrender these people, but Canada, they said that it is their right to safeguard all the Canadian citizens. So this guy, Singh, is basically a Canadian citizen. So Canada didn't really do that. So there was some kind of a tension between India and Canada regarding this particular issue. So if you want to understand the grassroots level where it goes, we have to go back to ages. So this is a long story. So where a group of people in Punjab, so before the independence, Punjab was a different state. So now after the independence, so in Pakistan also you have a Punjab, and India also you have a Punjab. There are people in this region, they are asking for a separate country, separate state out of India. So the Indian government is not for it. So the struggle has been going on for quite a long time now. And many people from Punjab, they have come down here to Canada and they have settled down. So India is always having this issue or confusion saying, or issue with Canada stating that, you are providing safe haven to this extremist and the terrorists, right? So according to Canada, these people have come as immigrants and they are now settled down and they are now Canadian citizens. So it is Canada's right to protect them. So this is Canada's stand and this is India's stand, and this tug of war is going on. And this has been happening for a very long time now. And what happened a couple of months back, I think in the month of June, this person was shot in front of a Gurudwara. So while he was moving in, so the shooting happened during daylight time, and this person was shot dead, right? And this created a lot of tension. And Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, last week when he was in the House of the Parliament, so he told the House that India has a connection with the killing of this particular Singh, right? So this particular person. So this is where the tensions rise, because like India was going crazy. Like they were asking like, how can you accuse us, right? And the problem that India has is that they say that Prime Minister Trudeau is accusing India, accusing the countries that we are linked to this particular assassination, but he is not providing credible proofs. And this has been a problem not just from India to Trudeau, but also here inside Canada, the opposition is also asking Prime Minister Trudeau to share the proof, which he has not yet shared. So the proof about this killing, or like the link to India in this killing, it's not yet been given. So there is no evidence till date stating that India is also involved. But he claims that he has credible sources, but the sources are not being provided yet to anyone, right? So that's where the problem is. So this tensions happened, and Canada first, they sent out an Indian diplomat in Canada, who was here in Canada. So they sent him out. So India actually retaliated by sending the Canadian diplomat in India. So they sent him out. So this is a tit for tat kind of a, something that happened this week, and this created a lot of tension, right? So after that, probably I think it was around Tuesday, Wednesday, India announced a notice to all the Indians who are living in Canada to be really cautious, because the idea is, this is what the idea behind that particular notice. So what has actually happened is, here the pro Khalistan activists, so people who are for Khalistan, so they have started threatening people here in India, right, asking them to go back to India, because in India they believe that it is the Indian government who have actually killed their leader. So they are protesting against Indians in Canada. So the government of India issued a notice stating that people who are living in Canada, Indians who are living in Canada, you have to be really cautious, you have to be really safe, because these people are against Indians who are living in Canada. So that was the notice issued, right? So then what happened, the next level of escalation happened because of intelligence reasons, because of some internal things, like India has actually banned Canadian citizens to enter the country. So this is where I need to make this thing very clear. I received a lot of messages, excuse me. I received a lot of messages saying that now Canada is not issuing any visas to Indians. It is not working that way. You need to understand what exactly is happening. It is India who has stopped processing the visas for Canadian citizens. So let's say I am in Canada right now, right? So I'm not a Canadian citizen yet. I'm a Canadian PR holder. So I have to stay in Canada for a particular particular duration of time. After that, I'll be eligible for Canadian citizenship. So let's say I take up the Canadian citizenship, then I'll have to give up Indian citizenship. So now I'm actually born and brought in India, but like now I'm living in Canada. Now I've also taken Canadian citizenship. So now I hold a Canadian passport. Now if I want to fly to India to see my parents or for any other reason, right, then I need to go get an Indian visa, right? So this Indian visa is processed in a center called as BLS, right? That's the center that processes the Indian visas, right? So India has right now shut down the operations of issuing visas to Canadians to come to Canada. So you can be a Canadian, if you're holding a Canadian passport, you are called a Canadian. And if you are a Canadian who's living in Canada or anywhere in the world, you cannot now travel to India. The reason why India has come up with this particular thing is simply because they see there is some kind of a threat from the activists over here, like from the people over here who are told that we are going to come and retaliate. I'm not sure what has happened, but there is some kind of an intelligence report, and that's exactly why India has issued this particular travel ban. On the flip side, so it was asked to Trudeau that, are you going to ban Indian citizens coming to Canada? So there is no such thing, right? So Trudeau clearly told that, we are not here to provoke things, and we really want the relationship to go smooth and things like that, right? So this is the background of what has actually happened so far. And if you see the ground reality here in Canada, so the reality here in Canada is, we are not seeing any serious tensions, right? So as for what I know and what I have been talking to, I've been talking to a lot of people across the country just to understand before this live, right, if they are seeing any tensions in their place or something. But what I understand is that, there is no such tensions, because I personally believe that Canada cannot allow the pro-Khalistan activists to go against the Indians in Canada, because that will become an internal law and order issue. So any government will not allow that to happen in their country, right? So two groups of people hitting each other, that may not be allowed in any country, right? So Canada is also taking actions that to ensure that the safety of the people who are living in Canada is it's intact, right? So they are also taking efforts, and we are not seeing anything as such, right? So till this point in time, there is nothing as such. There are protests happening here and there in different parts of the country. These are all peaceful protests. That's so we cannot take that as something uh, really scary. So nothing of that sort. People living in Canada, we are living. Yes, there were tensions, but there is no real issue as such. That's we are not feeling the heat as such. This is the thing, right? And how will this affect immigration? That's a question that a lot of you guys are having, right? So is this going to affect the immigration? So one thing is very clear. The Indian ministry, also the Canadian ministry, what they have told is, there is a lot of trade thing happening between India and Canada, and it is very difficult for Canada to be without Indians. They need Indians to come work here in terms of immigration, in terms of student, in terms of trade, right? Mutually, both the country needs each other, right? So my belief is that both the countries would definitely try to resolve this thing in a peaceful manner, right? So Canada has tried to go with their allies, like they are part of an organization called Fifth Eye, if I'm not wrong. So where like they are tied with for intelligence. So it's like US, Australia, UK, Canada, some other country. All right. So out of these countries, US has told that Canada should take up some investigation, prove, give evidence, provide evidence that yes, there was a link between the Indian government, and until then, US is not going to interfere, right? So Australia has also told that we are keenly looking into Canada's thing. We will see what happens. So no country has come forward, and they have not openly supported Canada in this issue. They are not. The thing is that they are not willing to stand against India, because it's without any credible proof, you cannot say that, hey, you cannot accuse a country, right? Which is not right. So people are asking for proof, but personally, my belief is that I think, right? So both the countries would definitely sit down and will try to resolve this issue in a very peaceful manner, right? So this will be sorted out behind this screens, is what I personally believe, because there is a lot of trade activity and a lot of back and forth activity between these two countries, right? So it's really important that the relationship goes smooth, and I'm pretty sure both the parties will be taking necessary action to make sure that everything is going smooth, right? So this can be expected very very soon, right? So probably another couple of weeks, I think things would be sorted out, and everything would get back in place. So ideally, this ban, Indian ban on Canadian visas, will be temporarily there for a while. But again, India would definitely reconsider this thing once everything is sorted out, and I'm pretty sure the ban will be lifted, because this is affecting the local people out here, right? So there are a lot of Indians who are Canadian citizens right now. So they want to go back to their country, they want to visit their family. It's all not possible now, right? So this is affecting them, right? So I'm pretty sure India will definitely consider that. So coming to the big question, how is it going to affect immigration? It has not affected immigration in any way. The express entry process is happening just like that, and people from India who are applying are getting invitations. For example, last week, a couple of my clients, one Ashok and Shiba, if you are watching, congratulations to you here as well. So both of them received the invitation. The visa processing is also happening, right? So Canada has not said that they are not going to bring in people from India. We are going to put a pause. No, they have not told anything about that, right? So Canada has told that we are seeking the government's help to sort this thing out, and India is denying all these allegations. So this is where they stand at this particular point in time. So there should be some kind of activity, and I'm pretty sure they will be able to resolve all these things pretty soon, right? This is what's expected. So this way, it is not definitely affecting the immigration. So if you are looking to come to Canada, so you don't have to worry like, okay, my visas are not going to get processed, nothing of that sort. So they are not hitting you on the immigration part at all. So immigration is happening just as how it used to go, right? So the express entry process is happening, and people from India are getting invitations, visas are processed, right? So people from India can travel to Canada on a tourist visa, on a study visa. All these things are happening, right? So it's not really getting hit, right? So that's pretty much it from me. Just wanted to give this clarity because I was getting a lot of messages on Instagram. People were sending me messages on WhatsApp. My clients had the question, right? So I wanted to bring about this clarity to everyone, right? So that's exactly the reason why I'm actually doing this live. I hope I was able to give some clarity on this particular issue, and just like you, I'm also praying that this issue will get resolved at the earliest, because India and Canada, two countries, two prominent countries, we have a very healthy relationship for a very long time, and we really want this relationship to continue. Am I right? Because there are a lot of Indians who want to come to Canada. There are a lot of Indians in Canada who are living, and they're doing great things, right? So we wanted this relationship to continue. So the thing is that that's basically the idea. Like that's my wish. I'm pretty sure that is your wish as well. I'm pretty sure like all these things will come to an end probably another couple of weeks. So I'm pretty I don't know about the Indian media. I'm not able to watch the Indian media from here, but from whatever I heard back in the country, right, they are talking. This has been a big breaking news, and this has been on headlines, and this will slowly shift, as weeks progress. It's slowly going to shift, right? So it's not going to be there on the headlines, and after a couple of weeks, I'm pretty sure everything would get resolved, and things would get solved, and both the countries would have the same relationship once again, right? So yeah, that's pretty much it. So in case if you have any questions, so you can post your questions on the Q&A part, right? You can post all your questions on the Q&A, and I would really love to take your questions, and in case if I'm able to answer, yeah, I'm definitely going to do this thing. Okay, Pratyal Kamal, what will happen if Canada got any credible proof that there is a link of Indian government in this? That's a pretty interesting question. So in case if Canada produces a credible proof, then India would be proven guilty. If India proves to be guilty, then it is between the issue will escalate to the International Court of Law, right? So where they'll have to sort things out there, right? So I really doubt if Canada will do this, show the proof, and make this a big fuss. I don't know. I don't really know, because if that has to be the case, then the evidence they should have given it by now. But till now they have not given. Maybe they are getting the evidence. I really don't know. But India is completely denying all these allegations. So I'm not sure what will happen. Then it might get a bit tricky, right? So then Canada might start, maybe they start imposing something, right? So but in as far as immigration is concerned, I'm not sure that whether Canada would take a drastic step and come up with saying that okay, from India I'm not going to take anyone inside Canada from now on. I don't think so. They will do that, right? Even if they provide evidence against India, I don't think so. They are going to do thing like okay, we are going to stop people from India coming to Canada, staying here in Canada. So I don't think they will do that, but the tensions will definitely escalate in case if Canada is able to provide such evidence, right? So that will definitely happen for sure. I heard people are not getting part-time jobs or full-time jobs. Is it true? Absolutely true. Absolutely true. That's a different story altogether. Job market here in Canada is really slow. That's whatever you've heard is absolutely true. It is because of various reasons. You might have heard about inflation, which is hitting the North American continent the most. So US is hit, Canada is hit, absolutely no doubts about it. And one more understanding is when you come to Canada as a new immigrant, you come with a lot of Indian experience and you come with an expectation. But here in Canada, the reality is different. The ground reality is different. So it took me 6 months to understand the ground reality of getting a job here in Canada. How do I know this? Because my wife, she is from an IT background. So she has close to about 5+ years of experience back in India working for IT companies, right? And I thought when she comes down to Canada, 5 years experience. So people with lesser experience, like 2 years or 1 year experience, they find it difficult to get a job. And people with 10 plus years of experience, 15 plus years of experience, they also tend to find difficulty in getting a job, because they have reached certain levels, right? So they'll be overqualified. I thought 5 years experience is a sweet spot, and my wife would be able to get a job immediately, and she also thought the same. But when we came down here, the reality was different, right? So it took us 4 months to understand where we are actually going wrong, right? Then she started working with a career coach. So they started teaching her how to go about the resume, what is expected in the Canadian market, how to go about it, what should be the approach. After doing all these things, within a month, she was able to land up in a job. Now she has got a job, she's working, right? So it's been just a week since she has started working. So when you understand how this thing actually work, the Canadian job market, then it will be easy for you to get a job, right? So a lot of us, when we come here as immigrants, we are like hitting arrows on at the sky, random arrows at the sky. So that's the reason why we are not getting it. But when you do a proper search, I'm not telling that everyone is going to get a job easily, but when you know how the market works, when you have the tools in hand, then getting interview calls at least is slightly better, instead of not knowing how to apply and things of that sort. So that's how it actually work. Has the cost of living gone up recently? Yes, cost of living has gone up really high, and the present government is telling that they are taking measures. They are cutting down the carbon tax, and they are bringing down this and that. Yes, it's really crazy. The cost of living has gone crazy high here in Canada, right? So of late it has been the case, but again, I would see this as a part of the cycle, so you cannot, whenever in any economy, you cannot see a steady graph like this. Obviously there will be highs, lows, and that's how an economy runs, right? So you cannot always keep going on the high, right? So there has to be a fall, there has to be a rise, only then the economy runs, right? So right now we are in the bottom part of the cycle. I'm pretty sure in another 1-2 years this will again go back to the top, right? So that's a natural cycle that one could expect, right? So I feel, yes, right now it's really difficult. People are finding it difficult. The interest rates are high, but at least government has taken some action, put a pause to the interest rates, and taking some action in terms of bringing the prices down. All these things the government is doing at this point in time. So I hope that it is bringing relief to people here. So we'll have to wait and watch another 5-6 months. We'll come to know. Once I submit my PR application, how long should I wait? So basically it depends. Ideally the timeline is 6 months after you submit all your documents. So once you get your AOR, then ideal timeline is 6 months is what Government of Canada says. But many a times you might actually get your visa before 6 months time. Sometimes it might even take, in some cases it might take more than 6 months as well, but the sweet spot is 6 months. So 6 months is the time that I would say. All right, so if you have any questions, like, you can post your questions and I would love to answer your questions. Any questions? So this can be any generic questions as well. So hi to all. Yeah. So how is the response in India? Like, how is the sentiment, and what's the narrative in India? How are they looking at this? How is the media responding to all these issues in India? Is it feasible to apply for Canada PR right now? Of course, yes. You can apply to PR. So there is no issues with applying for a Canadian PR. So the process is going on, right? So you can apply for Canadian PR. Yeah. If you got any questions, you can post that on the Q&A, and I would like to take your question. So what's your opinion on the new CRS score? Is it going to come down in the upcoming draws? Yeah, I think the current CRS score is around 531, which is crazy high. It's obviously because the last draw was on August 15th and then September. It's after a month draw happened. So naturally the cutoff score will increase. There is no doubts about it. 531 is not a surprise. The reason why they are not conducting frequent draws is because the number of invitations for this particular year, Canada has already exhausted. They have come to that limit where they have already exhausted the number of invitations they give for a particular year, right? So this is not just the case this year. This is the case with all the other years as well. If you go back to history and check the express entry draws, starting of the year, the number of invitations will be high and the cutoff score will come down, right, in the first quarter. And when it comes to the last quarter, it will increase, right? So this is the trend, right? So initially, when they set fresh targets for that particular year, they come out crazy, all guns blazing, and then the number of invitations are really high, so the cutoff score naturally comes down. Many people get the invitations. All these things will happen, but as the year progresses, when more and more invitations are given, the number of invitations, the quota for that particular year gets exhausted. So we still have October, November, December this year, and the number of invitations is limited. So naturally, they may not be able to issue a lot of invitations. They may not be able to conduct frequent draws, and that's exactly the reason why we are seeing a dip in terms of the draws and the scores going really high. But this is not the actual 531. This is not going to be the score. If 531 is going to be the score, then actually Canada should scrap the express entry system, because anyone from outside the country who doesn't have ties to Canada will not be able to apply for Canada PR visa at all. Am I right? So let's take a look at the maximum CRS score of a person who is outside the country without any Canadian ties, right? Age under 30, having a CLB 10 in IELTS, having a master's degree. This is an ideal candidate, correct? So if you take this person, his CRS score with a 3+ years of experience, his CRS score would be anywhere around 481. That's going to be his CRS score. So that's a maximum that he can get, right, without Canadian ties. If he does a 1-year diploma in Canada, then additional 15 points. If he's doing a master's, that's another 30 points. If the cutoff score is going to remain only above 500, then Canada can simply say that from now onwards, nobody can get a Canadian PR visa without having Canadian ties. Canadian ties meaning either this person should be working in Canada, or this person should have studied in Canada, should have had an open work permit and some experience in Canada, right? They should tell this thing openly. But that's not how it works, right? So now there is a lot of demand. So Canada is making use of this particular demand, and they are keeping the cutoff scores high. So I started making videos, I think in the year 2020 during the COVID. That is when I started my YouTube channel, I believe, right, if I'm not wrong. 2020, the first year I started my YouTube channel, I have made a video. In that video, I would have told Canada is playing very smart. Every year they are bringing the CRS score high, and there will be one point in time where they come and say that if you don't have connections to Canada, then you may not be able to get a PR. They are going towards that. But they have not announced that openly, and that cannot be the fact as well. They cannot say that you should have studied in Canada only, then we are going to give you PR. So those things may not come, but naturally now it is time for people with a score of very high scores to have that advantage. PNPs, people are getting advantage because they have 600 points. Canadian experience, they are having the advantage because the score is around above 500. But all these things will definitely change. Again, come 2024, I am really waiting for January 2024. Why? Because of two reasons. Number one, the new in-demand category list would be given to us. So right now, for the past 6 months, Canada was operating with the in-demand list, right? STEM category, transport category. You must have seen all those things, right? So come next year, January 1st, it is expected to, Canada is expected to release another new set of, the occupations, right? So I'm really eager to see what are the occupations, right? So I hope finance occupations, marketing occupations, all are included in this particular thing at least, right? So I'm waiting for that. And again, whenever a new year happens, then the new targets is set, right? And then they start working towards the new target. So the first quarter, they will be conducting a lot of draws, and the cutoff score will come down. So the first quarter is a good time. If you are looking to get the Canadian PR visa, make sure that your file is there in the first quarter, January to March, right? It's a sweet spot. Why? Because the draws will happen, the cutoff scores might actually come down. So that's a very good time to be there, right? So that's how it's going to work. Okay, I hope I answered that question. I have an express entry profile looking for a job in Canada for invitation. Any tips on getting a job? Unfortunately, my dear friend, if your application is in process, or meaning if you are in express entry pool and you're trying to get a Canadian job sitting in India, I would surely tell you that it is not at all possible, right? Because that's how the system here works, ATS system, right? So if your resume says that you're from India, you don't have a Canadian address or a Canadian phone number, it automatically rejects that particular resume, and it is impossible to get a job. So if at all you're thinking of doing that, getting a job, it's really difficult. Yeah. How about PNP? Can we get in with that? Absolutely, yes. PNPs are open. PNP is now the best bet, for people, because you get 600 additional points and eventually you end up getting the invitation in PR, right? So PNP is the best bet. So in case if you are eligible under any of the provinces, then you should definitely give PNP a shot. So that's what we do here in Maple Assistance. We not only create an express entry profile, so I help my clients with PNP profiles as well. Of late, Ontario immigration alone, from Maple Assistance, we have 9 people who have got the nominations, and their PR visas are processed, out of which 2 of them have got their nominations as well, and they have got their express entry invitations as well. So other 7, we are waiting for the nomination to happen and get the 600 points, but the documentation is already done. So now PNP has become really hot. Ontario nomination has become really hot, and it's giving invitations to a lot of people. So let's see how it goes. Is tax higher in Canada than India? So it depends on what salary that you make. So here taxes come under different brackets. So first 60,000, there is a tax bracket. 60 to 100,000, there is another tax bracket. 100 to 150, 150 to 200, and more than 250, there is another tax bracket. Yes, it's slightly higher. Obviously, it's higher taxes here in Canada when compared to India. But my personal opinion, after coming to Canada, my personal opinion is, at least here when I pay my taxes, I know I'm getting something out from my taxes. I'm using the libraries, I'm using the community center, the roads are really good. So I'm glad that at least it is going somewhere where I'm making use of it, right? So I have not felt the same back in India. But I'm glad that it's going here. But again, I'm not glad about the percentage of tax that Canada is collecting. I'm not happy with that, for sure. I still prefer they reduce the taxes slightly lesser. Yeah, I hope they reduce, but again, not in my hands though. Okay, so would we be able to survive if we land in Canada without a job once receiving PR? See, basically that's how the whole thing works, right? So that's the reason why they ask you to come with proof of funds. Proof of funds is the amount that you will be saving up for the first 6 months. That's the average. The first 6 months in Canada, when you land in Canada, for your survival only, they ask you to show the proof of funds. That's why you need to have the funds ready in your bank account, right? Now, after you land here in Canada, then you start exploring opportunities. Maybe you start taking a part-time job. You have to apply, have to understand. So this is something that, so whatever I am learning from my experience, what I'm doing is I'm sharing that with my clients, right? So there's another client of mine, his name is Vijay. So he landed 2 months later. So I landed in March and he landed in the month of May. Many of you might be knowing, right? So I started sharing whatever I know, and Vijay and Walita, they were the couple, and Walita was able to get a job as well now, right? So she started attending this session along with my wife. Both of them, they were part of this training program, and now my wife and Walita both were able to get the job, right? So whatever knowledge, whatever idea that I have, I'm passing it on to my clients, so that way that their transition is also smooth. So right now I'm working on not only helping people get the PR, so I'm also working on certain things where I can make their transition smooth here in Canada, because getting a PR is one thing, but after you come to Canada, you need to settle down. The first, just remember this thing, the first 1 year to 1.5 years, it's going to be really hectic. There will be times where you regret this decision, right? If you ask me, did you regret the decision of coming to Canada over the last 6 months? I would say yes. I definitely thought of maybe I did better in India. Yes, every immigrant will go through this phase. You will go through loneliness. You will go through depression, because here in Canada, it's not how it works, because back in India we had like servants to take care of the house, someone to take care of the kids, and you just have to do your work and things are smooth. But here in Canada you have to do the whole thing, right? And the expenditure is also really high. So the first 1.5 years is going to be really tough, right? So this is what people here told me. So what I did, like when I felt like, oh, did I do a did I is my decision bad, did I take a bad decision in life? So I started speaking to all the immigrants who are here settled in Canada around my place, neighbors. These people are kind enough to come and talk to you. They're kind enough to come and have a conversation with you, and they share their stories with you, what happened when they landed, right? Someone who landed like 3 years back, 4 years back during the COVID, and someone who landed like 10 years back. See, they started sharing their stories, and everyone's story, there was one common line. The first, the struggle they had in the first couple of years, right? So I'm talking about people who came here with a job on a closed work permit and then settled down as a PR right now. Even they had this issue, right? Everybody has this issue. The first 1 year is going to be really rough, but if you are able to sail through this first 1.5 years, then that's when your life slowly starts getting to settle down. And I can feel the difference here. 6 months, I'm not the same like when I'm not the same like April, I was in a different mindset altogether, but right now I understand how things operate, and slowly I'm able to get things right. So I understand. So you'll have to give Canada some time. So that's what people say, Canada, you have to give it some time. So when you give it some time, then you will start reaping rewards. So you should not expect rewards immediately. So I've got my PR, now my whole life is going to turn upside down. Yes, it's going to turn upside down, but not in the way you think, right? So it's on the opposite side, but slowly it will be all right. Sir, what should students keep in mind while coming to Canada? So you need to have your expectations right. So it is not just for students, I'm telling, this is for all the immigrants, even the people who are going to get their PR visa soon and who are going to planning to come to Canada probably in the next 6 months or 1 year. I want you guys to have the expectations right. The problem is we think that getting the Canadian PR visa is the peak. We think that this is the peak of the thing, right? That's not the fact. In fact, getting the Canadian PR visa is the start. It's just the starting point. Okay. So once you come to Canada, the reality will hit you. You're away from your family. All your jitters, all your expectations, all your highs will fade off within a week. Once you start, the first 1 week, 10 days is all pretty exciting because new place, new buildings, and you go to all these public places, go to the parks, you take photos, you share that with your friends and family back in India. All these things will fade away in the first 15 days. Then the reality starts hitting you, right? Then you start applying for jobs, you don't get a call back, right? So you get disappointed, you get frustrated. So your money goes off here on one side. So you are looking at that, oh my god, I brought 10 lakhs already, 2 lakhs is now gone, I've not yet got a job. This will happen on one side. The other pressure will start mounting on the other side. All these things will happen. So come with a clear-cut expectation, prepared for the worst, right? I am not telling this to demotivate you. I am telling this so that you can be prepared. Okay. So be prepared for the worst. What if you don't get a job for the first 3 months? What if you don't get a job for the first 6 months? What if you don't get a job for the first 12 months? Right? Have a plan. Right? How are you going to keep yourself up here in Canada? Right? So what's the plan? Right? And also on the other hand, understand how the country operates in terms of jobs or in terms of housing. How does the country operate? Right? So who gets the house? How to get a house for rent here? So here they ask for two things: credit history, and they ask you for a good credit history, and they ask you for a job offer letter, this or that, right? So what if you don't have that? How are you going to get a house? How to navigate? So be a part of groups. All these things, networking, community support will definitely help. So understand the reality before you come is my humble request to everyone who's planning to come to Canada, right? I'm not scaring you off. I'm talking out of my experience. So I am someone who's telling that, hey, I'm helping people in immigrating to Canada, right? So that's what I'm doing. And you might think that, okay, I'm talking otherwise. No, I'm not talking otherwise. I'm giving you reality. Okay. So is this place, am I going to stay? Yes, I'm going to stay. Do I think that it is rewarding in the longer run? Yes, I think Canada is rewarding in the longer run. That is exactly why people who are on the social media, YouTube, people who make videos don't come to Canada. They are not willing to leave Canada. So you go ask them, if you say that Canada is this bad, why don't you come back to India? They say, no, I'm going to stay here. Why? Because when you give Canada time, you will reap rewards. That's the beauty of this particular country, because the opportunity is there, definitely. The growth is there, definitely, right? So that's why people are not leaving. But initial struggle will definitely be there. It is not just Canada, or if you go to any part of the world, the initial struggle will be there. You have to be prepared for that. All right. Yeah, that's pretty much it from me. So if you got any questions, you can post your questions. I can stay back. How much fund should we have in bank account before landing to Canada? So basically it depends on the number of people in your family. So I think if you are a single applicant, then you'll have to show close to about 8.5 lakhs. If you are a couple, husband and wife, then it is around 10.5 lakhs, 11 lakhs. If you're a couple with a kid, then it is around 12.5, and with 2 kids, it's 14.5 or 15 lakhs, right? So that's the amount that you need to have in your bank account. Once I submitted the application in 2023, is it possible for resubmitting it in 2024? Once you have submitted the application, you don't have to resubmit it unless and otherwise they ask you for more documents, right? So it's definitely not required. So I don't know why you want to resubmit the same documents in 2024. So one time you submit your documents after your invitation is good enough for them to come with a answer. Whether your visa is rejected or accepted, they are going to come up at the same time. Otherwise, in case they feel that the documentation is not sufficient, they will raise something called as ADR. ADR stands for additional documents required, right? So they might ask you for additional documents. So they don't have a clarity on this part. So they want more documents on your work history or any other thing, right? So then you submit those documents and they're going to process your application. So that's how it's going to work. All right. Any more questions? Could you please tell me the maximum age for express entry? So there is no age limit for express entry. Basically, express entry process is the 67 points. As long as you're able to get 67 points. So let's say your age is 52 and you're able to get 67 points out of 100. You're still eligible to apply under the express entry process, right? Age is a factor. It contributes some points to the CRS score. That's pretty much it, right? So let's say you are not contributing on the age, but on Canadian work experience and French and English you contribute points, then you can still be eligible, right? So eligibility depends on the 67 points calculator, not on the age. Okay. Will they provide any reason if the PR visa gets rejected? So mostly yes, they will. They're going to send you a letter stating that for these reasons we didn't have clarity, and that's on these grounds we are rejecting your application. So yes, they will let you know. What questions immigration asks in the first landing as a PR? Nothing much, frankly speaking. So they ask you if you have more than $10,000 in cash, right? You are not allowed to carry more than 10,000 in cash, right? It can be in other forms, but you cannot carry it in form of cash. So you are not supposed to do that. So when you land in Canada during the immigration thing, like they're going to ask you that question, and that's pretty much it. If you say no to it, then they say welcome to Canada. That's what happened with me. They didn't ask any big questions. So they said welcome to Canada. Have a great stay here in Canada. That's pretty much it. Also, another query, Ajay, is CRS score 400 very low? Will it have a chance, or PNP is better? See, that's what I keep telling all the people, even during my masterclass as well. No score is a good score. No score is a bad score at this point in time. Why? Because of the category based draw, right? So is 375 a good score or a bad score? You guys tell me. Someone who's there in the express entry pool with a score of 375, is it a good score or a bad score? You would naturally say that it's a bad score. You think that 375, it's not going to fetch an invitation, but it fetched an invitation. In the last 3 months, you might have seen someone with a score of 375 has got an invitation, right? This person comes under the French speaking stream, right? So he was able to get an invitation with a score of 375. Who would have thought that this is possible? Getting a direct invitation in the express entry is possible with a score of 375. Nobody, right? But this has happened, right? So it all depends on what category you fall under, what's your knock code, right? And what's the a demand for that particular knock code. So it depends on a lot of various factors, right? And based on that, it's going to be decided. So you really can't say whether 400 is a good score or a bad score. It depends on the category, depends on the cutoff score, depends on the demand for that particular category in Canada. So a lot of factors are going to play. That's exactly why I tell people, if you are aspiring to get a Canadian PR visa, now is the best time. Give it a try, right? You're not going to lose anything by giving it a try. Okay, so there is no harm in giving this a try. So please go give it a try, because creating an express entry profile is absolutely free. You're not spending money to create an express entry profile. It's just your IELTS and ACA, right? Then you can go ahead and create a profile. So go give this a try. That's the point. And if PNP is working for you, great. Take the PNP option. Grab it with both your hands. Finish it off, right? So that's something that I would definitely tell my clients. 470 score, can we apply for PNP? Yes, of course. So PNP, the requirements, the eligibility requirements are different from express entry. Okay, so each province has a different eligibility criteria. If you are meeting the eligibility criteria of that particular province, you can definitely go ahead and apply under that particular province. So for example, Saskatchewan, in order to create an expression of interest, you need to have 60 points out of their 110 points calculator, right? If you're able to meet that 60 points, and if your occupation is in demand, and if you meet all the criteria, then you can go ahead and create an expression of interest with Saskatchewan, right? So you can definitely go give this a shot. Any other questions? For Alberta PNP, getting a job offer is mandatory. How is it possible to get a job offer staying in India? Is it a reality? No, I don't think so. It's a reality, right? Because for someone who's sitting in India and getting a job offer, I'm slowly starting to explore the LMIA options, because many of my clients, they want to come to Canada, and LMIA, getting an LMIA would give that 50 points push, and that's going to be really helpful in terms of their application. So I am now exploring the LMIA options here in this thing. But again, LMIA, it's a very expensive option. Getting a job offer is a very expensive option. But maybe in Alberta also, people might be doing all these LMIA things. Yes, we can get in this thing, but pretty expensive. You need to decide whether you're willing to spend that kind of a bandwidth. So I'm talking about $30,000 to $35,000 for a valid job offer. If you have that money, if you at your disposal, and if you want to come to Canada no matter what, then maybe that's a thing. But sitting here and getting a job there in Alberta, very, very difficult, because they actually, all these things, Alberta will issue nominations to people who already are living in Alberta and they have a job offer, right? So basically, the temporary residents of Alberta with a job offer, they are the ones who will get the invitations from Alberta. That's how it works. What is the result duration when we apply? 6 months, or there is no timeline, or we have to wait without? No. So within 6 months after you submit all your documents, you will come to know the result on your PR visa status. That's ideal timeline. Okay, 6 months is the ideal timeline. So within that time, you will understand. Hi, does the current unrest between India and Canada impact the express entry and CRS scores? If yes, how? No, it's not going to affect the express entry or CRS score. That's what I've been telling for a while right now. So the current unrest between India and Canada has nothing to do with the express entry process, because express entry process is not just the process for India. It is for the people across the globe who wants to come to Canada on a PR visa, right? So just because there is tension between India and Canada, it is not going to affect the whole thing, right? So it's not getting affected. Can I come to Canada under V1 and then convert to W1 if I manage to get a job? So I assume V1 means visitor visa, and I assume W1 means work visa. Yes, on papers it is definitely possible. You can come here on a visitor visa and then you get a job and you can convert that into a work permit. That is absolutely possible on papers. But I really wonder how a visitor would get a job here in Canada, because you need to have your SIN. It's a social insurance number, right? You need to have your documents for an employer to give you a job. When you're here on a visitor visa, I really doubt if an employer would definitely give you a job, right? Unless and otherwise you have friends here who have companies known to you, they ask you to come down. I don't think so. This is a wise option, right? When do you think inflation will get better in Canada? So my timeline is next year, same time. I hope next year by September, October, things should be back to normal. or by end of next year, things should be back to normal. So that's why I also tell my clients who have got their PRs, who are planning to land now. So I tell them, plan your travel probably by the second half of next year, because that's when things should get smooth. Because 2025, it's election here in Canada. Okay, so naturally when the election is round the corner, so the government will try to do something for their residents in order to get their votes. It's the same politics anywhere across the globe, right? So I'm pretty sure next year there will be a ease in terms of pressure, in terms of groceries or the lifestyle or the living cost, and all those things will definitely come down, because at least for the sake of the election it has to come down, I guess. And also the inflation cycle or the recession cycle, it's a cycle, right? So maybe 3-4 years we are going really good, 1 year it will be really down, 1.5 years, then again it's going to rise back. So we are already in the recession part, so maybe after a year it will again improve, right? So my thing would be landing in second half of 2024 would be a good option. Can you share any link to calculate the PNP scores? So PNP, there are a lot of different PNPs. So there is each province has a different eligibility criteria. So in case if you want to know the eligibility criteria for a particular province, go to Google and type the province name and the eligibility criteria. For example, Saskatchewan, right? Saskatchewan eligibility criteria, and you will get the official links in order to understand the eligibility criteria. Prince Edward Island eligibility criteria, Nova Scotia eligibility criteria, you will be able to understand, right? It's there on the internet, very simple. Do Agri graduates have a chance of getting PR? Absolutely yes, because in the in-demand category there is a separate category for Agri related work and people, right? So they will also be called, right? So there is definitely a scope for people who are in Agri. When turns to January, I'm falling into the age of 35. Is that will my points get reduced in that time, even if I submitted my application? So after your invitation, your age will freeze. Okay. So if you have already received your invitation, if you're working on your documentation, then you don't have to worry about your birthday, because once you get your invitation, your age freezes and you don't have to go ahead and worry about losing that 5 points. No, it is not going to impact your 5 points at all. But before invitation, if your birthday comes, then yes, even if you're there in the express entry pool, you will automatically lose 5 points, right? So it all depends on whether you've got the invitation or not. Will the current scenario affect the study visa? I think the study visa part might get affected, not because Canada is not going to take in people from India. It is because of the sentiments in India. That's what I understand. Okay, right now the sentiment in India is, okay, Canada is acting against all Indians. Canada is not safe for Indians. I personally, from what I understand from my family or friends who are there in India, is that whatever they are seeing on the media, it is as if that, Canada is not a safe place for India. So they wanted people to be cautious. So this narrative might actually affect the aspiring students who want to from India, who wants to come to Canada. They might think that or their parents might think it is not safe to send my kid to Canada at this point in time. So this might actually affect the thing. But actually Canada is not stopping anyone from India to come and study in Canada. So there is no such thing as such, right? So like they are not stopping you from coming to Canada for study, right? So Canada has not banned anyone saying that, okay, so if you are an Indian, you should not come to Canada for a study visa. No. They have not put in any restrictions. But I think because of whatever is happening, people in India might have this mindset, and they might maybe withdraw. Maybe I'll wait for another year. So let me not go to Canada this year. Let me see how things progress, and after that, then I'll take. So there might be a dip in the number of applications because of that particular reason. It is because of the mindset of Indians, not because of Canadian pressure or something. That's what I believe. How is the demand for professor job in Canada? So there are a lot of universities here, a lot of colleges out here. I don't know if there is a demand for a professor job, but if you're a professor, you can definitely find out a job, is what I understand. I think you need to get a license. So once you have the license, then you'll be able to teach people, is what I understand. My CRS score is 413. Would you suggest OntarioPNP or BCPNP? So basically when it comes to BCPNP, you need to understand, you need to have a job offer. BC gives nominations to people with a job offer. So if you don't have a job offer, obviously you'll have to rely on Ontario PNP only, right? So you really don't have a choice unless and otherwise you have a job offer, right? So whichever province works out, whichever province is giving you a letter of intent, LOI, then go ahead with that particular province. No province is a bad province to start. I'm a master and teaching for the past 10 years, having a baby husband, also a teacher. How can I be in Canada? So again, if you are working professionally, then obviously the process or the gateway to Canada would be the express entry process. You need to apply for PR and you need to go via that. If our own sister is there in Canada with PR, is there any chance to come? So if you have your sister who's having a Canadian PR visa, then that adds 15 points to your CRS score. That's the advantage that you get when you have your sibling in Canada in PR status. But that alone will not decide whether you are able to get a PR visa or not. Okay, it again comes down to the points, comes down to getting an invitation. So that's an advantage. 15 points is an advantage. With that advantage, are you able to come to Canada? That depends on your CRS score. Okay. Thank you, it's sorted. What's the scope for media industry in Alberta? Media industry as such in Canada is really good. After the visa stamp, what is the deadline to reach Canada? So you have time till your visa medical gets expired. Okay. So once your visa gets stamped and once you have the COPR in hand, then in the COPR itself, they would mention the date before which you should have landed in Canada. You should not let the COPR to expire, right? So before that, you should come to Canada. So some people will get 10 months time, some people will get 6 months time, depending on when they did their medical test and depending on when they received their PR. Okay, so that's how it works. Currently, the cost of living is skyrocketing in Canada. How is it going to trend over the next year? See, the good thing about whatever is happening right now, we are already in the peak. Okay, if something has to happen, it cannot go here. It has to come down only. So that's the benefit of being here in the peak right now. So if something from now it has to happen, I think the cost of living all has to come down because government is already taking actions in terms of giving something for the groceries, bringing down the grocery prices, cutting down the carbon tax. All these things will definitely impact the cost of living in Canada on a better side, right? Meaning the cost of living can actually come down. So they are planning to build more houses, making housing more affordable to people here. All these plans are there. So hopefully next 1 year, it should get better. It will not get worse because I think we are in the worst times. Yeah, this is the worst time that could possibly be, right? So they cannot raise the interest rates more than this. If that happens, then the whole economy would collapse, right? I think it will get better in the next few months or the year. How about HR jobs in Canada? So here, every company, they recruit people via a third-party HR consultant only, right? So very few companies have direct recruitment. So if they're a very small company, they have direct recruitment. Otherwise, they do it via this only, HR consultancy only. So HR is definitely a field which you can give it a try, right? So that's my understanding. Hi, can you please tell if we don't get a reference letter, does email from the manager work as a proper email ID and contact details? So if you're not able to get a reference letter, then you need to get something called as a rejection letter stating the employer should state that, hey, as a company's policy, we are not going to issue the reference letter. So that can be added as a proof and you can get the roles and responsibilities from your colleague and you can attach that while submitting the documents. That's pretty much possible. I'm an MBA holder in marketing, having heavy license in India since 20. Can I apply? Yeah, you can definitely apply. What about medical lab technology job? Can we work without license? Few occupations requires a license in Canada. I'm not sure whether your occupation comes under that or not. So you can do your research. But as such, healthcare sector is a growing industry and they need a lot of people under the healthcare sector. So you stand a chance. Okay. Yeah, pretty much it. Okay, on the Q&A section, let's see if I'm... Tax deduction reduces if you invest in savings like LIC in India. Yes, there are some tax deductions here in Canada as well, where you can invest in insurance and all those things comes under the tax bracket. You'll be able to get tax rebate and things of that sort. Um, okay, I'm just taking a look at all your questions. Okay. How much funds? Okay, I think I've already answered all these questions. Yeah, pretty much it. My IELTS score is 6.5 overall. Can I apply for PR under any province? So it depends whether you are able to, whether you have at least 6 in all the 4 modules, because your overall score doesn't really matter when it comes to Canadian PR visa. You need to have minimum 6 in all the 4 modules of IELTS, and you need to have 67 points out of 100. So if you meet both these criteria, then you can apply for the express under the express entry process. Parthi, Kamal, few of my questions are not answered yet. So can you please share the questions? I'm getting a lot of questions, so it's not possible for me to answer it all. So any questions in specific, you can mention it over there. What would be the scenario of Canadian job market in the next 6 months from now? So basically we saw a spike in the recruitment thing in the month of September. So a lot of recruitment happened, a lot of people got their jobs, and the same kind of a spike would be expected after the Christmas holidays. So probably by January and February, I personally believe that again people would start getting jobs and the job market that would get hyped up, and a lot of recruitment would happen. So again, the next 6 months, I think it's going to get better. For me, I think, because this is what I believe. We are already in the rock bottom. So if we need to go somewhere, it has to be on top, right? So it has to go get better. It may not get worse from here. What about pharma background jobs? Yeah, it's a demand. There is a lot of demand. What about robotics engineering job in Canada? I don't have any idea about the robotics engineering job. What are the tax slabs in Canada? You can actually Google this thing out. I myself don't know, because I'm self-employed. I'm least bothered about the taxes here. So you can Google it out. You can find it out. Any idea how much opportunities for mechanical design engineering professionals? I happen to hear a lot of good things about the mechanical. If you're talking about AutoCAD or all the other design softwares, I'm seeing a lot of people who are employed in that. So yeah, I think you have some opportunity there. Okay. All right. So that's pretty much it. So I would like to close this. We have been doing this for an hour now. So yeah, I think it's enough for today. So that's pretty much it. So bottom line is that yes, there is tension between Canada and India, but it is not affecting the immigration. So if you're someone who's aspiring to apply for a Canadian PR, you don't have to be really bothered about whatever is going on, because I personally believe that all these tensions would get settled behind the scenes, probably another maybe couple of weeks or within a month, right? Because this cannot prolong for a very long time. Unless or otherwise something unfortunate happens, I don't think so this is going to prolong for a very long time. As of now, there is no issues as far as the immigration is concerned. Visas are getting processed, right? Canada is open to people from India. They want people from India to come to Canada on a PR visa, so on a study visa. So Canada has not had any ban on all these people as such. So it is still open, so you don't have to worry about it. So if you're pursuing your Canadian PR thing, like keep doing that, keep working on it, right? And if you if you want Maple Assistance to support you in terms of your application, so please do get in touch with us, and I would be really interested to see how I can contribute, how I can help you out in your Canadian PR journey, right? So that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope this live session gave you some clarity on all your questions, right? So that's pretty much it from me. So one last question. My passport is going to expire in the 3 years. What will be the PR validity? 3 years or 5 years? 5 years. After you get your PR, you will be having like 5 years validity. And if you stay in Canada for 2 years out of that 5 years, then you'll be eligible to apply for citizenship, right? Or else you can continue with your PR visas, right? So that's how it's going to. Okay, thank you so much. I would love to do more sessions like these in the future, so we'll be doing it. And I'm also in talks with a lot of people, and I'm planning to do a kind of a talk show on my YouTube channel, right? So I'll be posting. I've already working out on interviews with a lot of people. So one such person is Catherine, who is actually a career coach who helped people, new immigrants, in getting their resume ready and things of that sort. So very interesting conversation. So in case if you haven't subscribed to our channel on YouTube, so you can go ahead and do that. It is Maple Assistance. Okay, go to YouTube and search for Maple Assistance. You will find the channel. So subscribe and hit the bell icon, notification, whatever, blah 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 thing, and so that you get notified whenever we have a video. And if you're not following us on Instagram, it's high time that you go ahead and do that, right? So that's pretty much it from my end. So thank you so much. So wishing you all the success. So keep safe and be safe and be productive, and all the best for all your dreams. Okay.